Yahweh provides for Elijah and the widow from Zarephath. 1 Kings 17, verse 8 to 16. Then Yahweh said to Elijah, "Go and live in the village of Zarephath, near the city of Sidon. I have instructed a widow there to feed you." So he went to Zarephath. As he arrived at the gates of the village, he saw a widow gathering sticks, and he asked her.
"Would you please bring me a little water in a cup?"
As she was going to get it, he called to her.
"Bring me a bite of bread, too."
But she said,
"I swear by Yahweh, your Elohim, that I don't have a single piece of bread in the house. And I have only a handful of flour left in the jar, and a little cooking oil in the bottom of the jug. I was just gathering a few sticks to cook this last meal, and then my son and I will die."
But Elijah said to her,
"Don't be afraid. Go ahead and do just what you've said, but make a little bread for me first. Then use what's left to prepare a meal for yourself and your son. For this is what Yahweh, the Elohim of Israel, says. There will always be flour and olive oil left in your containers until the time when Yahweh sends rain and the crops grow again."
So she did as Elijah said, and she and Elijah and her family continued to eat for many days. There was always enough flour and olive oil left in the containers, just as Yahweh had promised through Elijah. A time of famine. Elisha and the 100 men. 2 Kings 4, verse 42 to 44. One day a man from Baal-Shalisha brought the man of Elohim a sack of fresh grain and 20 loaves of barley bread made from the first grain of his harvest. Elisha said,
"Give it to the people so they can eat."
"What?
His servant exclaimed.
Feed 100 people with only this?"
But Elisha repeated,
"Give it to the people so they can eat, for this is what Yahweh says, everyone will eat, and there will even be some left over."
And when they gave it to the people, there was plenty for all, and some left over, just as Yahweh had promised. Emmanuel feeds the 5,000. Matthew 14, verse 14 to 21. Emmanuel saw the huge crowd as he stepped from the boat, and he had compassion on them and healed their sick. That evening the disciples came to him and said, "This is a remote place, and it's already getting late. Send the crowds away so they can go to the villages and buy food for themselves." But Emmanuel said,
"That isn't necessary. You feed them."
"But we have only 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish."
They answered,
"Bring them here."
he said. Then he told the people to sit down on the grass. Emmanuel took the 5 loaves and 2 fish, looked up toward heaven, and blessed them. Then, breaking the loaves into pieces, he gave the bread to the disciples, who distributed it to the people. They all ate as much as they wanted, and afterward the disciples picked up 12 baskets of leftovers. About 5,000 men were fed that day, in addition to all the women and children. Emmanuel feeds the 4,000. Mark 8, verse 1 to 9. About this time, another large crowd had gathered, and the people ran out of food again. Emmanuel called his disciples and told them,
"I feel sorry for these people. They have been here with me for 3 days, and they have nothing left to eat. If I send them home hungry, they will faint along the way, for some of them have come a long distance."
His disciples replied,
"How are we supposed to find enough food to feed them out here in the wilderness?"
Emmanuel asked.
"How much bread do you have?"
7 loaves.
They replied. So Emmanuel told all the people to sit down on the ground. Then he took the 7 loaves, thanked Elohim for them, and broke them into pieces. He gave them to his disciples, who distributed the bread to the crowd. A few small fish were found too, so Emmanuel also blessed these and told the disciples to distribute them. They ate as much as they wanted. Afterward, the disciples picked up 7 large baskets of leftover food. There were about 4,000 men in the crowd that day, and Emmanuel sent them home after they had eaten. So, beloved, trust in Yahweh. Let your faith be strong, grounded on his mighty power. Let the testimonies of his wonderful deeds strengthen you in all circumstances. Matthew 16, verse 5 to 11. Later, after they crossed to the other side of the lake, the disciples discovered they had forgotten to bring any bread. "Watch out," Emmanuel warned them. "Beware of the yeast of the Pharisees and Sadducees." At this, they began to argue with each other because they hadn't brought any bread. Emmanuel knew what they were saying, so he said, "You have so little faith. Why are you arguing with each other about having no bread? Don't you understand even yet? Don't you remember the 5,000 I fed with 5 loaves and the baskets of leftovers you picked up? Or the 4,000 I fed with 7 loaves and the large baskets of leftovers you picked up? Why can't you understand that I'm not talking about bread? So again I say, beware of the yeast of the Pharisees and Sadducees. Beloved, Yahweh will always provide for you." Matthew 6, verse 33. Seek the kingdom of Elohim above all else, and live righteously, and he will give you everything you need. Deuteronomy 28, verse 2-6. You will experience all these blessings if you obey Yahweh your Elohim. Your towns and your fields will be blessed. Your children and your crops will be blessed. The offspring of your herds and flocks will be blessed. Your fruit baskets and breadboards will be blessed. Wherever you go and whatever you do, you will be blessed. Matthew 6, verse 26. Look at the birds. They don't plant or harvest or store food in barns, for your heavenly Father feeds them. And aren't you far more valuable to him than they are? 2 Corinthians 9, verse 8. And Elohim will generously provide all you need. Then you will always have everything you need and plenty left over to share with others. 2 Corinthians 9, verse 10. For Elohim is the one who provides seed for the farmer and then bread to eat. In the same way, he will provide and increase your resources and then produce a great harvest of generosity in you. Matthew 6, verse 25. That is why I tell you not to worry about everyday life, whether you have enough food and drink or enough clothes to wear. Isn't life more than food and your body more than clothing? Proverbs 13, verse 25. The righteous eat to their heart's content, but the belly of the wicked goes hungry. Philippians 4, verse 19. And this same Elohim who takes care of me will supply all your needs from his glorious riches, which have been given to us in the Messiah Emmanuel. Isaiah 49, verse 10. They will neither hunger nor thirst. The searing sun will not reach them anymore. For Yahweh in his mercy will lead them. He will lead them beside cool waters. Psalms 111, verse 5. He gives food to those who fear him. He always remembers his covenant. John 6, verse 35. Emmanuel replied, I am the bread of life. Whoever comes to me will never be hungry again. Whoever believes in me will never be thirsty. Isaiah 1, verse 19. If you will only obey me, you will have plenty to eat. Psalms 84, verse 11. For Yahweh Elohim is our sun and our shield. He gives us grace and glory. Yahweh will withhold no good thing from those who do what is right. John 16, verse 33. I have told you all this so that you may have peace in me. Here on earth you will have many trials and sorrows. But take heart, because I have overcome the world.